The tray arrives at 5 in the afternoon. Steak, French fries, a slice of apple pie, a glass of milk. It's exactly what you ordered 11 days ago when the guard brought in the request form. You remembered what you'd asked for. What you weren't ready for was the smell. The smell of real food after months of institutional meals does something specific to you, because the smell should trigger hunger. It doesn't. You look at the steak and feel nothing resembling appetite. Your stomach is closed. Not from illness. From something that doesn't have a clean name, but that guards recognize the second they walk in with the tray. You are on death row. It's just after 5 in the afternoon on a Wednesday. In a little under 19 hours, you are going to die. The state knows the exact time. You know the exact time. The chaplain, who's coming at 8 tonight, knows the exact time. The execution chamber is on the other side of a corridor. You'll walk tomorrow morning. Clucked. The tray in front of you is the last meal you will ever eat. The last meal tradition goes back centuries. In ancient Rome, condemned prisoners received food and wine before execution as part of the public ritual. In medieval Christian tradition, the last meal was tied to communion, the body and blood of Christ, the rite of passage out of this life. In much of Europe, it became custom to give the condemned whatever they asked for. When the United States institutionalized the practice through the 19th and 20th centuries, it was already embedded as part of the process. Today, most American states still offer the last meal. Texas suspended it in September 2011. But in most states, the form still exists. You filled yours out. You chose steak because it's what you hadn't eaten since before you were arrested. You ate steak every week before all of this. It was a normal thing. Cool. You wanted to end on something normal. The problem is that normal doesn't exist anymore. Normal ended when they put you in this cell 3 years ago. Normal ended when the jury read the verdict. Normal ended completely when a federal judge signed the paperwork confirming tomorrow's date. You pick up the fork. The metal is cold. The steak is the right temperature. They heat the last meal carefully. A guard watches from the door slot. He's not watching you with cruelty. He's just there, doing his job. He's seen this moment dozens of times. He knows what happens next. You cut a piece of the steak. You bring it to your mouth and you can't swallow. It's not that the food is bad. It's not that your body is mechanically refusing. It's that swallowing requires some intention of continuing. And something deep in you, the part that regulates appetite, has understood what's happening better than your conscious mind. You chew. The taste is there. It's steak. It's real. And you can't make the next step happen. Guards who've worked death row for years describe this consistently in published accounts and testimonies. Most condemned inmates don't eat the last meal. They take 2 or 3 bites. They stare at the tray for an hour. Some order food they clearly have no intention of touching. Huge quantities, elaborate dishes. As if requesting an impossible meal was a final act of assertion. Lawrence Russell Brewer, executed in Texas in September 2011, ordered a feast of 21 items, including 3 steaks, a hamburger, fried foods, an enormous omelet, pizza, a sundae ice cream, and fudge. He didn't eat any of it. Texas abolished the last meal practice shortly after. Ted Bundy ordered just a cup of coffee. Eileen Wuornos ordered just a cup of coffee. John Wayne Gacy ordered fried chicken, fried shrimp, French fries, strawberries, and ice cream and ate all of it. Timothy McVeigh, responsible for the Oklahoma City bombing that killed 168 people, ordered 2 pints of mint chocolate chip ice cream. What each person chose says something about what they were doing in that moment. Some want normalcy. Some want abundance as a symbolic act. Some want nothing. You put the fork down. You're not going to eat this. When you know you're not, the tray is going to be removed more or less the way it arrived. A guard will note it in the report because every stage is documented. The condemned did not consume the final meal, a bureaucratic sentence for something that doesn't have an adequate sentence. The night is going to be long in a way that surprises you. You expected not to sleep. You won't sleep. But what you didn't expect was the clarity. Most people describe the final hours before an execution as a state of disturbing lucidity, not anxiety in the sense of a racing heart and uncontrollable thoughts. Something quieter and more terrifying than that, as if the brain, knowing what's coming, finally decided to stop lying to you about anything. You'll think about people, not necessarily the people you expected to think about. Condemned sometimes describe thinking about completely random memories a day from childhood. The smell of a kitchen from 30 years ago. The voice of someone they haven't seen in a long time. The brain running its own inventory. The chaplain will arrive. He has been doing this for many years. He knows there's nothing right to say. He stays present. That's what he can offer. Presence. In the early morning, they'll bring you clean clothes. They'll let you make a phone call. The last minutes with a lawyer, a family member, whoever you choose. Then the process begins to move with its own logic that doesn't stop. Not because the people around you are heartless, because there is a protocol. The protocol exists because without it, no human being could systematically execute another human being. The protocol is the structure that makes possible what would otherwise be impossible to do by hand. The execution chamber in states that use lethal injection is a small room, gurney. Straps a glass window separating the chamber from the witness room where the victim's families, legal representatives, and approved observers are seated. The standard lethal injection process uses 3 substances administered in sequence. The first is a barbiturate pentobarbital, or an equivalent that induces unconsciousness. The second is a paralytic agent. The third is potassium chloride, which stops the heart. Processed, if the debate over whether this process is or isn't painful has occupied decades of litigation. Some states have had executions described as problematic. There have been cases where apparent unconsciousness was questioned. There are disputed medical reports. What is certain is that the protocol was designed to be visually quiet for the witnesses and legally defensible. What happens internally is more complex than what appears from outside. You're on the gurney, straps on your wrists, ankles, chest. The technician inserts the needle into your arm. You look at the ceiling is white. The lights are fluorescent. This is the last ceiling you will ever see. There is something almost abstract about that perception. The fact that you are conscious of this being the last moment, pachist, that you are registering the ceiling, the lights, the temperature of the air, the weight of the straps, the cold of the metal, while simultaneously knowing that in seconds you won't be registering anything anymore. In 2022, 1,476 executions were carried out globally. According to Amnesty International, the majority in China, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and the United States, in that order. The United States executed 18 people that year. Since 1976, when the Supreme Court reinstated the death penalty, more than 1,500 people have been executed in the United States. Hundreds went through exactly this: the corridor, the tray, the early morning clarity, the gurney, the white ceiling. You ordered steak. You didn't eat the steak, coring. And now there is only this ceiling, and the awareness that the ceiling is the last thing. And the thought that maybe you should have eaten the steak, not because it mattered, but because it was the only act left that still belonged to you. If this video put you in that cell at 5 in the afternoon on a Wednesday, subscribe. We go to the places where time stops running and the last second lasts a lifetime.